Yeah, I did. All right, if you guys don't have a handout, you want a handout, Myrna? And I'm gonna leave these down in the front row. Okay. All right, I think we're gonna go ahead and get started. Appreciate you guys all being willing to give me your time, part of your afternoon. I know a lot of people. If I see you nodding off, I won't yell at you. I won't call on you. I know I know a lot of time on Sabbath afternoon. Some people like to take part in lay activities, and so I don't want to take you too much longer. But I just want to begin by thanking the leadership of Grace Fellowship for understanding the need that we had to be intentional about reaching our former members, our missing members, those that have gone inactive. In fact, let me begin by asking a question. How many of you know someone who used to attend church and no longer attends church? Everybody. Yeah. Yes, inactive there are two categorizing, which is missing members or apostatized members, those who no longer believe what we believe, and inactive is either of those. If they have not attended in, I would say a few months at least. It's not, it's the summer vacation time and it's hard to corral the kids to get here. They don't have what they consider a home church. They feel like they're not connected with a church. And so that's what, for the purposes of our discussion, that's what the definition will be today.
Actually, that definition is helpful.
Yeah. And we'll again, I'll go through these with you, so you don't need to fill them out beforehand. We'll get to that. But all of us we all know someone or multiple people that used to attend, no longer attend, right? And one of the things that I am privy to with having a father who's the secretary of the union is numbers, statistics and numbers. And so there are a couple of numbers that I look at that many of those numbers are encouraging, but there is one statistic that's alarming, and that's the number of people who are leaving the church. And those are, again, that's categorized by those who are missing or in apostasy. So in the Southern Union alone, which Kentucky, Tennessee, the Carolinas, Georgia, Florida, Mississippi, Alabama, in that union alone, in those conferences alone, during the last 5 years, 10,000 members have been dropped as missing. 10,000. Now, dropped as missing. They've been listed. They may be on the book membership, but they are listed as missing members. And
So that's just the number that have been kind of accounted for.
yeah, that's just the ones we know about. And there's estimates that I'll get to as far as for the whole union and the North American division. But let me explain a little bit of what that category means. It doesn't say they've apostatized. This is just the missing. That simply means we just don't know where they are. It's not that they've given up their faith in Jesus. It's not that they've given up their faith in the Sabbath or anything like that. We just simply lost track of them, right? They used to come, but man, it's been a while since we've seen brother so-and-so, sister so-and-so. I haven't seen them around in a long time. We're going to be speaking much more about that category this afternoon, and hopefully going to give you some tools that we can locate these people because they're missing. They're not, again, it's a very hopeful, encouraging category there. We can probably find these people. When we expand the Southern Union number, when we expand that number to include the entire North American division, it's estimated that there are 1 million former or inactive church members. 1 million. And I read a study not long ago by the North American division that stated that since 1965, in the world church, there are 22 million members that have been lost from the church. Now that's a surprising, that's an astounding, and hopefully an alarming number. Because the bottom line, the truth is that these aren't just numbers, right? These are people. These are sons and daughters, mothers and fathers, aunts and uncles who had once made a decision to join the church. They were excited. They had people over for their baptism day. And for some reason, they chose to walk away from fellowship. And the estimates vary, but the studies indicate that we're losing between 60 and 70% of our young people. Our young people don't stay in the church. They leave the church in droves. They're leaving the church faster than ever before, especially millennials. And as attendance figures of the churches are studied, it's the average church has about 50% attendance. You probably know that number. About 50% of the members on any given Sabbath are actually at the church. But those were the numbers before COVID. Those were the numbers before the pandemic. And again, we're not really talking about those people that haven't quite come back yet, that may not feel comfortable attending with church members. Those are not inactive members, okay? I want to be very clear about that. Go ahead, Ramona.
Well, I mean, but don't we really need to know if that is why they're not back?
Well, sure, yes, but I'm saying that if that's the reason, that's not who I'm talking about. So again, I'm talking about people who have made a decision, you know what, I don't feel comfortable at Grace Fellowship anymore. I don't feel comfortable at Huntsville Central anymore. Wherever their church membership was, they no longer feel like they belong there, and they're not attending, virtually online or in person. And so that number, that 50% attendance number, it includes unbaptized children and visitors. So we don't even actually have 50% of our membership. We just numbers-wise have about 50% of that number. So for the Southern Union alone, in the year ending in 2018, we had 9,200 baptisms, but 4,600 members were dropped for apostasy or as missing. That's 50%. Let me ask you, would you want to go to a hospital where 50 out of 100, every 100 babies born died? Would you buy a car where 50% of the cars were lemons? Would you want to go to a restaurant where 50 out of 100 diners got sick? Of course we wouldn't. And it'd be easy to say, well, evangelism is the problem, right? We do evangelism, and they never stick around. They're not really well grounded. The evangelist comes, he does a good job, but then he leaves, Johnny, and we're left holding the bag, holding the pieces. But this 9,000 baptism comes from every source. We're not just talking about evangelism. We're not talking about public evangelism. We're talking about friendships. We're talking about church schools. We're talking about VBS. We're talking about Bible studies. We're talking about all sorts of ways that people enter into the church. Charles Spurgeon, a great evangelist of the 19th century, he had a revival in a church. And after some time, after he had left, Johnny, you'll like this, he received a letter from a church member saying, "Where are all the people who joined the church when you were here? They're all gone." And he wrote him back. He says, "I don't know. I left them with you." In other words, I don't know. I'm gone now. So the topic that we're addressing this afternoon, I'm going to kind of be addressing in the next couple weeks as well, is, I believe, one of the most vital that we as a church can address. This is very important, folks. And it's also some of the easiest. This is low-hanging fruit, as they say. This isn't someone who is a staunch atheist or someone who has been, this is not that case, okay? These are people who already acknowledge they believe the same things we have. Truth is not a boundary. It is not a limiting factor here. And so the good news that we face is that many of those who are inactive can become active again. That's the good news. They can be reconnected with God's church. And that process can begin here and now, right here at Grace Fellowship. So first, we're going to begin by answering the question, and I'm sure it's a question that's been on all of your minds, why in the world would a person ever leave a friendly church like ours? Right? Well, let's start by taking this quiz. All right? We're going to go through this quiz one by one, and we're going to ask ourselves questions. Now, again, if you strongly disagree, you're going to put a 1. If you're on the fence, it's going to be a 3. If you very much agree, it's going to be a 5. So the first question, and no cheating, no looking at each other's papers, okay? First question is, the less people go to church, the less Christian they are. That's the statement that's made. The less people go to church, the less Christian they are. If you agree with that statement, strongly agree, it's a 5. If you strongly disagree, it's a 1. Yeah, 3, 4, 5, they're all up there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. However you feel about that, you put what you feel. And don't worry, I'm not going to collect them. I'm not going to pick them up. You don't have to write your names on them. I'm not going to say, well, so-and-so. No, don't worry about it. Just put what you feel, okay? Second question, inactive members are a drain on the church. Strongly agree, strongly disagree, somewhere in the middle, right? Inactive members are a drain on the church. Third question, inactive members don't come to church. Anyway, emotionally, right? A lot of work. We got to put it work to get to the inactives. We have to do. It's a drain. It's not easy. They're a drain on the church. Okay. And number 3, inactive members don't come to church because they're lazy. Inactive members don't come to church because they're lazy. Strongly agree with that. Strongly disagree. Wherever you fall on that spectrum, however you feel, go ahead and put your answer down. Number 4, most of the excuses people come up with for becoming inactive are just that, excuses, right? If they really wanted to be here, they'd be here, right? If they were really committed, if they were really dedicated, if they really felt the Spirit, I'm sure we've heard things like that. Number 5, there are times when to become inactive is the best possible decision for a member to make, right? Maybe sometimes that's the best case scenario. Number 6, sometimes people just don't fit at a particular church and are better off finding a new church, right? Maybe, thankfully, we got one in our same town. If they don't have another one in their town, well, tough toenails, but maybe it's best if you find another church. Strongly agree, strongly disagree. Number 7, inactive members need to be admonished for their inactivity. They need to be talked about for this. I mean, you guys, you're supposed to be faithful. You need to be back in church. Okay, if you agree with that, then you'll put a 4 or a 5. If you disagree, a 1 or a 2. Number 8, a good way to reach inactive members is by sending letters to them. It's a good way to reach out, right? Especially if we don't know where they are, don't know where. Let's send a letter, see if they're reachable. Number 9, I don't understand why a person would drop out of active participation at our congregation. We do a good job of providing for people's needs. If that's how you feel, you're going to strongly agree with that. I don't understand why. I feel good, right? I feel happy. My needs are met. There's friendly people to me. So I don't get it. I don't understand. 10, inactivity is primarily the responsibility of the church staff or a special inactive member team rather than the members of the congregation in general. All right. Now add your total up. That's not what I wanted. Why did it jump from 1? There we go. A score of 10 to 20 is caring and accepting. Again, don't tell me your scores. Don't blurt them out. A score of 21 to 30 is wanting to be accepting. You want to be accepting. And a score of 31 to 50 is unsympathetic towards the inactive. Again, we're not going to say anything about your scores. We're not going to say anything about you. This is just maybe a way for you to understand where you fit on that spectrum. Our effectiveness in ministering to those who are inactive is going to be directly related to our attitudes about them, right? If we look down on them, if we judge them, if we think less of them, or if we're judgmental of them, God's not going to be able to work through us to reach them, right? But often, while we may not be the critical ones, right? I'm not saying anything to anybody. I haven't told anybody off for what they wear or what they dressed or when they got to church, right? I'm not saying anything. Sometimes it's natural. It can be bewildering to us to think, why would someone leave the church? The church where we find so much joy and fulfillment and friendship. It's just incomprehensible to us. Why would anyone want to leave? Now, perhaps if we can discover some of the answers to this question, it'll help us in our quest to minister effectively to them. Well, first of all, let me share some common reasons why people leave the church. First of all, people don't just wake up one morning and say, I think I'm going to leave the church. I think I'm going to become inactive in the church today. Now, we may see that result, but typically it's a long journey towards leaving the church. And the good news this afternoon is that most who leave continue to have a strong sense of community, a strong sense of connection with the church. Most of those inactive members would still write on a survey that they're Seventh-day Adventists. That's how they identify. 4 out of 5 say that they are likely to re-enter the Seventh-day Adventist church. 80%, that's a big number. 4 out of 5 inactive members say that they're likely to re-enter the Seventh-day Adventist church at one day. Only 1 in 5 have habits or a lifestyle that would prevent them from rejoining the church. Now, a little question. How many of the people that Jesus spent his time with had habits that may have prevented active membership according to the Pharisees?
What was the opening statistic on that?
1 in 5 have habits or lifestyles that would prevent them from rejoining the church. So in a recent survey of former Adventists who had been dropped from membership, 37% said that they are still practicing the Adventist faith. 37% been dropped from membership, still practicing the Adventist faith. 75% still believe in the seventh-day Sabbath. 65% still believe in the second coming of Jesus. And 53% still believe in the inspired role of Ellen White. Can you believe that? I would have thought that number was way lower for people who leave the church. But over 50% still believe in the inspired role of Ellen White. And 84% still have Adventist friends. That's really good news. That's really good news. So what's stopping them from coming back? Well, first, there might not be anyone inviting them back, right? It could be as simple as that. They're not coming back. No one's invited me back, right? Even my college will send every few years a reminder of a reunion, right? They'll say, hey, come on back, right? Okay. Sometimes that's more than people get from their church. They can be gone 5 years, 10 years, 15 years. I could tell you story after story about people who, I'm the first pastor they've seen in 7 years, 8 years, 12 years. And I'm saying, well, what about anyone else from the church? Not them either. That's shame on us, right? That's shame on us. So what's stopping them from coming back? First, people might not be invited. But secondly, maybe what caused them to leave still hasn't been resolved, right? Maybe they were hurt for a reason. Maybe something happened. Maybe for whatever reason, their trajectory took them on a different path, and that's never been resolved. So let me better understand this. I want to show a little video. We're going to watch a video. Can we get the volume, make sure it's loud enough?
total jerk.
I'm sorry, sweetie.
He said, he swore that he loved me. He wanted to grow old together. And then I walk in on him with her, and all he can do is shrug his shoulders and say, oops.
Sherry, why? Why do you keep falling for these?
That's all he could come up with is oops. Well, at least he left me with some wonderful presents.
You deserve more than that. A lot more.
Oh, my life's a mess.
So, Sherry, look for something better.
But it's crazy out there. It is, Joan. Everything is just one big come on, and then just one big letdown.
So look for something better. It's 9 a.m.
Oh, well, cheers. Oh, how did I miss the boat? Why didn't I get my act together? Like Roberta. Ah, like my old friends from church. They've got everything.
Eric, I don't think I'm being judgmental. It's just that I wonder if some people don't play games with God's grace. They do whatever they want, live as they please for years, and then they have these dramatic conversions. And the next thing you know, they're up in front of church giving a testimony, and everyone is raving about it. And you've been stuck in the pew all these years trying to do the right thing. And what do you get for it?
Roberta, surely you're not jealous of these people. I mean, do you envy their years of separation from God? Their years of pain and misery?
Misery? They're having the time of their lives. People like Sherry. Remember her from way back? I hear she's feeling no pain.
Don't you see the pattern here? All the wrong guys. You're going from one dead end to another.
Yeah, well, starting this morning, I'm gonna get myself a whole new pattern. Remember that gorgeous fireman we saw at the gym?
No. The guy who couldn't take his eyes off his own chest.
Mm-hmm. I'm not sitting around here, that's for sure.
You've been out all night.
Don't worry. I'm gonna get myself fixed up.
Here we go again.
Does it seem completely fair to you, Eric? God saves all his love for those who sin the most dramatically. And the rest of us, we get the crumbs from the table.
Well, I don't think God plays favorites. Maybe it's just that those who have been forgiven most love most.
Oh, so I don't really love God because I haven't ever rebelled against him?
No. It's just that some people, I don't know, they really feel the distance from where they are to where he's at. Closing the gap makes a big impression.
I can't find this stupid lesson.
This week's Bible study guide? It's in here. Oh, yeah. The one with God's boundless mercy on the cover.
Yeah, this'll work.
Can you just stop a second? Take a look at what's happening. Maybe start looking for love in better places.
Like you know any bars we haven't been to?
Well, how about church? Didn't you used to go?
Yeah, right. A couple years back, I walked in. I don't know why. I sat down in this class. The teacher, he looks at me, he's sort of confused, and he says, "Do you belong here?" Well, I thought about it for a second. I said, "No, I don't really think I do." And I walked out.
And that's it? Someone makes an awkward remark and now you're gone forever? I mean, is that what you do with guys? The incredible loser boyfriends that you're stuck with for months and months, no matter what they do.
I know. I know. Letting people come to church just as they are, that's fine. Well, what about our standards? Aren't we supposed to be different from the world? I mean, if we keep rolling out the red carpet for people with 1 foot in and 1 foot out, it just waters things down.
But what if that's precisely what makes the church unique? The welcome it gives all kinds of people. The world in general, it excludes. It builds walls. It makes it hard to get into the right places. Aren't we supposed to be about something else? Of course we want to be unique as believers, unique inside. But isn't that all built on grace? Roberta, it all starts when we take in God's love and mercy and share it with others.
I don't know. Eric, that tie, just not working. I'm gonna go on ahead. How do I look?
Well, at this hour, where would you be going?
Well, firemen keep strange hours. Oh, is this too much? This is too much, isn't it?
Sherry, you're trying to fill a hole, and it's not working. The stuff you're putting in is not working.
Well, it's not like I haven't tried a lot of different things. If the religion thing had worked, if church had worked, I would be doing that. Maybe. You know, if God really is present in church, for pity's sake, you ought to be able to feel something, right? But if the warmth isn't there, come on, Sherry. You can give it another shot. If I could just get one sign, one signal that God actually cares, it could make all the difference. Maybe I should just dump church and go out and have a grand old time. Hi, Ellen. It's so nice to see you. Yeah, then I could come back and do the big testimony thing. Everybody would be so thrilled, I'm sure.
Just one little sign.
Oh, excuse me.
It all starts when we take in God's love and mercy and share it with others.
Okay. Sorry about the outdated video. Clearly that was made, I think, in the 90s. But we can appreciate the sentiment, right? I think that we've all heard some of those same things from both sides of that, where church just isn't working for someone that we know, or why do they get to have all the fun and then squeak in at the last minute, right? And we can see some of the difficulties with that line of thinking. But we're going to take some time to think about some of the reasons why people leave the church. First reason is pressure from family, right? And that can be both ways. It's very common in the SDA church, either pressure to leave if the family is of another denomination. And we have that, we run into that all the time doing evangelistic series. My parents are Baptists, my grandparents are Baptists, I've been going to a Baptist church all my life, so I'm never going to join. Well, we have that same thing happen once they do join. That family doesn't go away. They're still calling them back to, come on, let's go to church on Sunday. Come back with us. That's just, they're not friendly. I baptized a lady in Rainsville this year, and I called her up a few weeks ago, and I asked her how things were going, and I asked her, what makes it difficult for you? And she says, well, actually, I miss my friends at my old church. Well, boy, did she make a decision contrary to what most people would do. And let me tell you, if we don't fill that void, we'll lose her too. And that's the issue we run into with so many people. There's that pressure from family or pressure to be better. That can be a pressure too from your SDA family, right? Don't wear that, don't drink that, don't listen to that music, don't wear that to church. Come on, you can do better. It happens all the time. We've all heard it. Second thing could be life crises, right? In a lot of cases, when couples get divorced, that's a huge factor for people leaving the church. Usually one or both leave the church, nearly always, at least for a time. Another life crisis could be a death in the family. Maybe that was the patriarch, right, of the family, or the matriarch of the family, the person that really kept you connected. And now they've died. And now all of a sudden you're not disappointing grandma anymore by not coming. Now all of a sudden you're not disappointing your dad because you're not there. Another is a hectic life pace, right? How many people wish that there were 3 Sabbaths a week? I wish that we didn't have nearly as many work days as we have weekend days. I think everyone can feel with that. And I can't tell you how many people stay home, at least occasionally, because they're just tired. They're just tired. The week has really wrung it out of them. The devil wants to keep us busy all the time. He wants us to be just so stressed and so busy that we don't have time for church. And one of the things that's the most easy to fall into, again, now we're streaming, right? Well, now you can, even if we weren't streaming, there's other churches streaming. And you can watch Doug Batchelor or Dwight Nelson or a lot of better preachers than my local preacher. And here I got to go to church. I got to get up. I got to put on these clothes that I don't even feel comfortable in. I got to wear this thing that why would I do that? Another thing is that people change, right? You see that in marriages, right? You got married when you were young, didn't last. People change. We develop different burdens, different cares, different goals for our lives. Sometimes it could be, again, marriage, divorce, having children, a death in the family, unemployment, right? It can be that kind of a thing. A fifth is lack of bonding or inclusion. That's a big one, right? How many places do you stay a member of? Do you stay faithfully attending if you don't feel bonded with anybody, if you don't feel included by anybody? Not many. When people don't feel included, they leave. It's as simple as that. A church needs to be more than foyer friendly, right? We got greeters, we made sure we greeted them, but then once they're in the doors, we don't know where they go afterwards, we don't care about them, that's not our job, right? I'm the greeter, I greet. And I'm not even a greeter. Hey, I don't even have to do that, right? Sometimes a church says people leave because they aren't grounded, but that's virtually never the case. The people leave because they feel they aren't included. There are enough jobs and ministries to go around. Ask any of the leadership team. We got places for you. If you want to be part of this church, if you want to take an active role, we have spaces that need to be filled. Another one is no involvement in the work of the church. That's a big one, bigger than people think. Everyone needs to have a job, everyone. Doesn't matter what the job is, but you need to have one. One of the surest signs that someone's on the dropout track is they refuse to be part of anything. They refuse to do anything with it. They don't want any responsibility. They don't want any commitment with the church. Those are people we need to be watching. They turn down all requests to be participants in the church, even simple things, right? Conflicts. It isn't a matter of if conflicts will arise, right? We know that's going to happen, but what you do when they do arise, how you handle them. I remember my first district, there was a husband and a wife that had been attending for years, and they used to be very active. And in fact, the wife, she had redone the bathrooms, made them nice, painted them, put wallpaper trim up the top, done everything, and no one even thanked her. Now, you may say, well, you shouldn't do things for thanks, right? You shouldn't do things so that people can appreciate you. But at the same time, shouldn't we show our appreciation when people do things? And they had been out of the church 7 years. They even had family members still attending the church. It was not enough. And in 7 years, they'd not had a pastor or a church member so much as reach out and call them. We think that the regulars don't need our love and attention, right? Well, they're here all the time. Wayne's here all the time. Tom's here all the time. People here all the time, right? Oh, Jim's here. What do I need to go visit him for, right? I just saw him at church. He must be fine. Celeste is always here. She must be fine. She must not have any needs, no prayer requests, nothing going wrong in her life. After all, she's a Christian. We just preached about Jeremiah. Expect disappointments. Everyone faces them. Everyone is going through their own battles that we don't know about. Another one's guilt. That's a big one. It's more common in the SDA church because guess what? Our standards are a little higher than other churches. So it's easier to be guilty. It's easier to feel like we're not living up, especially if the wrong religion is preached. If we're preaching the Pharisaical salvation by works, right? Unless your righteousness exceeds that of the Pharisees, you're not going to make it to heaven. Person may be drinking, they may be smoking, they may have fallen back on a habit, they may be an addict that just can't quit, and they feel guilty, they feel like a hypocrite. How many times have we heard that in reference to church? Hypocrites, right? You say one thing, you believe, but you don't live it. Well, that affects more than just those of us who are like, well, I'm not drinking. What do you mean? I'm trying to be nice to people. Well, there are people who feel guilty for what they're doing. And even though the church is the best place for them to gain the victory, they feel like they don't belong and they don't qualify. Another one's shame, right? Maybe they messed up publicly. Maybe they had an argument with someone. Maybe they said something. Maybe something got found out. I had a member who had a DUI. Uh-oh. That church gathered around him, hugged him, and prayed with him, and he broke down in tears, and he's still come to church. Praise the Lord. Praise the Lord. Theological differences. Now, this one's not as cut and dry as you would think, because it's not necessarily they no longer believe in the Sabbath. But how do you keep the Sabbath? What's your church's worship style? What kind of music do you play? What about applause? Can I raise my hand? The SDA church does not have a prescribed worship style. It's not like a mass where it's just sit up, stand up, do this, and it's not like that. Some churches are a lot different than other churches. And too many times people are driven out of the church because of different opinions on standards. Now, let me be clear. Standards are not fundamental beliefs. Standards can and do change. Standards are not the principle. The principle stays the same. The principle doesn't, but the specific application of that principle is the standard, and that changes. We've seen it happen in our lifetime, right? It used to be no wedding rings, no wedding bands. My parents still don't wear wedding bands. They didn't grow up wearing wedding bands. They grew up in the church. They didn't have wedding bands. That's a standard that changed. Mustaches. Did you know that? Mustaches used to be outlawed. I would be in trouble, partly. Can't grow anything right here, but this part of me would be getting me in trouble. No mustaches. No guitars, Jesse. No guitars allowed to be played in the church. First, it was no pianos. Pianos were barroom instruments. Don't be playing that in the church. Organs are nothing. Words on the screen. We'd be splitting the church 50 years ago to do this. There would be those on the right hand that were all for it. It's progressive. It's cool. It's what we need to reach the people. And those on the other side, heresy. It's evil. Get it out. Well, yeah. Yeah, no, I remember, projector slides, don't be using those, don't be using those. Mission Spotlight's golden. Don't you touch Mission Spotlight. Another reason is rejection, right? Cliques, right? Cliques are good as long as everyone's in one. But when you're not, when you're on the outside of that clique looking in, when everyone else has a group of friends that they're talking with, that they're associating with, that they're eating lunch with, then it becomes a problem. Apathy. People have come to the point where they just don't care. They just don't care. You know what? You've been harping at me about this for this many years. I'm just tired of hearing about it. I'm tired of the guilt you're heaping on me. I'm tired of the shame you're heaping on me. I'm tired of the burden. I'm tired of all the requirements that you've given me. I'm tired of it. I don't care. I dated a girl in college. Her family was Adventist. Her dad was not. And I remember him telling me, he's like, I just don't think that God is going to send me to hell because I don't go to church on Saturday. He didn't care. He wasn't anti. He'd go with them to church a lot of times, but he didn't. There was no relationship with Jesus. He didn't care. Another one is unrealistic expectations, right? New members join, and they think everyone's going to be as friendly as Johnny, right? He baptized me. I love it. Everyone was treated right when we had an evangelistic series. Everybody was nice to me. They made a special note. They have a drawing, and I won a Bible or a Strong's Concordance, which I don't even know what a Strong's Concordance is, but I won one, and everyone was friendly to me, and they would invite me over for lunch, and boy, it was awesome. And then I got baptized, and where'd all those people go? Did I forget deodorant this morning? Am I wearing something different? What is it about me that changed? Everyone was 100% friendly 100% of the time, and now they're not. I don't know about you, but I'm not 100% friendly 100% of the time. So that's an unrealistic expectation that people can have. That I went to church, everyone was treating me great, and now that disappeared. What happened? Well, I don't like that church anymore. They're not showering me with the attention that they had been. They're not giving me all that I needed to progress in my walk. So what do? We've answered some of that by exploring the causes of inactivity, because when you can see the cause, sometimes you can see the effect, but something else is important. And I think that it's something we all need to be really clear about. What is our goal when working with inactive members? Our goal is not to get them back into church, even though we rejoice when they get there, okay? But that's not our goal. That goal is not within our power. That's the Holy Spirit's job. Our job is to show compassion, love, and care to those who are inactive in our church. That's it. That we can control, right? I do have the power over that. What if here today we determined that we, as a church, are going to show ongoing, genuine, interested care and love to those who are currently inactive here at Grace Fellowship during this next year? Do you think it'd make a difference? Absolutely. Do you think they would come back? I don't know. I can't guarantee that they'll all return, but I can guarantee that you will be changed. The bottom line is to be a church that cares, okay? To be a church that acts like Jesus, loves like Jesus, and listens like Jesus. Let people have the freedom to make their own choices. They're going to make mistakes just like you and I make mistakes. And if they really want to go, let them go. But then, Jesus said in Matthew 18, if he refuses to listen to them, tell it to the church. And if he refuses to listen even to the church, treat him as you would a pagan or a tax collector. Now, this is where we get messed up. We ostracize, we criticize, we judge. We lock the door from the inside and claim to wonder why they don't get back in. And we forget who's speaking here in Matthew 18. It's Jesus. How did Jesus treat pagans and tax collectors? He ate with them. He talked with them. Right. Made them disciples. Absolutely. He bid them follow me. To the consternation of the devout. Right. There's no evidence whatsoever that Jesus asked these people to change their lives before he asked them to follow him, to be active members of his church. How does Jesus treat you? How does he treat me? If I can be 1/10 as loving as he is, people will be drawn to me, and through me, to him. The only one who's made a lasting difference in anyone's life. When we take that call seriously, when we commit to becoming a prodigal hugging generation, a prodigal hugging church, then the reconciliation and the healing will begin. Ellen White says in Volume 9, she says, it's not only by preaching the truth, not only by distributing literature that we are to witness for God. Let us remember that a Christ-like life is the most powerful argument that can be advanced in favor of Christianity. Not all the books written can serve the purpose of a holy life. Men will believe not what the minister preaches, but what the church lives. Go ahead. Oh, okay. Wayne is saying that the word prodigal means wasteful. Yeah. Except what? Oh, yeah. I'll hug you from 6 feet, social distancing.
I think we are sort of a place of
Yeah, well, again, this is not anything, again, I say it all the time, the biggest room in my life is the room for improvement. I'm not hammering down on anybody. I'm not saying our church is bad, but if I can do something a little bit better, that's become my prayer during these 40 days is, Lord, help me not to be the roadblock, right? Help me not to be what's keeping us from doing your will. So I want to follow your will. I don't even know what I'm supposed to do. Guide me. And so that's my point here. So how do we reach out? How do we reach out and reconnect with those who have become inactive or left the church? We must understand grace both individually and as a church. The beginning of this process is for each of us and for our church to understand grace. According to a survey conducted by Jerry Moon of Andrews University, less than 70% of Adventists worldwide have complete assurance of salvation. Could be 32. I don't know. It's less than 70. Less than 70%. Desire of Ages says, love cannot be commanded. It cannot be won by force or authority. Only by love is love awakened. Graceful churches, they're genuinely happy when people come home, right? When sinners come back home. They're genuinely happy. They perceive them as welcome guests, not threats. They're intentional about building bridges instead of walls, because they recognize that you can't really embrace someone that you're pointing a finger at. Let's always remember that the universal symbol of Christianity is a cross, not a ladder. The gospel is good news, not just good advice. It's not us climbing to God, it's God coming down to save us. Heaven is promised to the ones who understand how wretched they are and how good God is. That's why we can be happy when the prodigals return, right? When the lost sheep, when the lost coin, when the lost son comes back, we can rejoice. We can receive them with a party and not stoning. For they understand how repentance really works. So the question is, once those who are inactive come back, will they find grace both in us and our church? So step one of the process that we're discussing this afternoon is to understand, embrace, and live grace. Second step is understanding what our goals are. We need to have a clear expectation. We need to have clear goals set, okay? So is our goal to get as many of them to return as possible? Not really. That's our hope, but it's not our goal. Again, we talked about that. We don't have that in our power. It's not within our power to get anyone to come back to church. It's just we don't have it. That's done only through the power of the Holy Spirit. Our goal is to show caring, compassion, and kindness to as many inactives as we possibly can. We can control that. I can make a goal of showing compassion and caring to 5 former members during the next year. I cannot make it a goal to have 5 former members return to church. You see the difference there? And the difference is big. When we understand that, it changes the dynamic of our ministry. I'm released from the pressure, I got to get, if I had that same number for baptisms, got to have 5 baptisms this year, well, I'd be like, you want to get baptized? You want to get baptized? Who wants to get baptized? Like, that would be my goal, right? But if it's, hey, how about your goal is to listen and be caring and try to visit people and try to understand them and build your relationship with them and see if they have needs that you can meet, well, then the baptisms come. Okay, then those things start happening. It's the same thing here. We're released from that pressure of, I've got this goal of 5 people. Well, that's one that I'm hoping is going to come back to church. And then it's Tuesday. I'm going to call them up and I'm going to see if Paul will come back as well. We're released from that. It enables me to concentrate on what we can do, on ways that we can reach out to former members and show them I care. And then leave the results with God. We don't need to worry about that. That's not our goal. Our goal is to be caring and loving. It's up to God whether or not he wants to fill this church. Okay? It also changes how we relate to former members, doesn't it? If my only goal is to befriend them and to show care for an individual, it allows me to be more patient and kinder when interacting with them, right? I'm not like, man, December's coming and I've only got 2 out of my 5 that have come back to church, and this guy, man, I've been so patient with him for 2 weeks. I just don't know what is going on with this turkey, but he won't come back to church. Well, that releases us. If my goal is not to get them, I just want to be a friend. I just want to be kind to him. I just want to develop a relationship with him. I have no expectation of when they will come back to church, and I have no care about that. Because guess what? It's not a seat in this congregation that gets you into heaven. It's that relationship with Jesus. Okay? So this is not the end game here. That's not our goal. We need to be aware of that all the time. My goal is not to get people to come back to church. My goal is to befriend them, to show them care, to show that I love and appreciate them. All right. How should we talk? How do we talk with inactive members in the church? Well, it'd be well to remember the counsel of Ellen White. She says in Ministry of Healing, it's always humiliating to have one's errors pointed out. How often is it humiliating? Always. None should make the experience more bitter by needless censure. No one. How many people? No one. None of them was ever reclaimed by reproach. But many have thus been repelled and have been led to steel their hearts against conviction. A tender spirit, a gentle, winning deportment may save the erring and hide a multitude of sins. Boy, that's what I want to do. I don't. Reproach has never reclaimed anyone. That's a powerful statement. That's an inspired statement. It's never reclaimed anyone. But a tender spirit, a gentle, winning deportment may save the erring and hide a multitude of sins. As the late Jim Kress said in Ministry Magazine, he said, while doctrinal differences, heretical breakaway groups, or disagreements over worship styles and standards have caused some people to leave, others depart due to boredom, poor preaching, and inadequately planned services. However, the vast majority leave due to a lack of friendship. They have been wounded in the church. Whatever the cause for their absence, 2 things are certain. The back door still swings, and solutions lie far more within our power as active members than we might wish to think. That's good news. The power is in our hands, right? We don't have to have some expert come to reach our inactive members. We can do that. We have the ability right here in our own hands, right? So our goal is what? To befriend them. That's our goal. Let's be friendly. Let's build bridges. Let's make relationships with these people. If you know them and you've noticed that they've gone missing, contact them. You don't need to be on a committee. You don't need to be commissioned for the task. Simply just reach out to them. Let them know they've been missed. Are they all right? Simple questions. How you doing? How have you been? The sooner we notice a person is missing, the less likely they are to remain away from the church. Let me tell you a little secret. When I call people that haven't been in church in a while, I never ask where they've been. They always volunteer. Oh, well, I haven't been in church because of this. They want to talk about it. We don't have to bring it up. We don't have, hey, haven't seen you in church in a while, and I just wanted to call you. It's not the best thing to say to someone. Why, you only want to see me in church? You want to feel good about your church. You don't care about me. You don't like seeing empty pews. You don't like seeing empty seats. I was talking with April Ford this week, and she shared something with me. April's great about reaching out to people. And again, I try to sit at the feet of the master, so to speak, when it comes to people that excel at different things. And she said something that really resonated with me. She said she never calls someone on Sabbath, never calls someone on Friday, because she doesn't want people to think that that's the only reason she's calling, that, oh yeah, it's sad I didn't see him at church. She calls people Monday through Thursday. Interesting. She is intentional about showing people they matter. This is not a, you know what, I got 2 hours until I can watch my favorite TV show. It's not sundown yet. Let me call some people that weren't at church today. Who was that? What was that lady's name? Who wasn't here? Oh, yeah, let me go. That's not how it works. That's not how it works. Be intentional about it. Utilize your Sabbath school classes for this. I think we can do that. Intentionally keep a record of who is and who isn't there, and let them know you're thinking about them. Again, we have our regulars for Sabbath school class as well. And we should notice. Again, if Tammy wasn't there, I'd wonder where she was. She's with us every week. If they've been missing for some time, pick up the phone. Call them and have a chat. Just reconnect with you. Reconnect. I'm just trying to reconnect with you. Just seeing how you're doing. Now, truthfully, that's one good thing that's come about because of this pandemic. It gives us an opportunity to do that. It gives us an excuse. Hey, just want to see how you're doing. Make sure you're okay. Simple. You don't have to say, I haven't seen you at church. You don't have to let them know you've been at church. I'm just calling, seeing how you are. And frankly, don't be surprised or offended if they don't exactly receive you graciously. Right? I've called people. This is the first time I've heard from you in 2 years. You've been here that long. You never called me. Well, that's my fault. I could have, but I didn't. They may not have been in church in years, and if they're not instantly warm and caring, don't be offended by that. That's natural. Don't be defensive. Because again, frankly, if the church hasn't reached out to them in a number of years, shame on us, right? Shame on us. I'm not the only one taking the fall here. Shame on us. We should have reached out. There's something I say a lot that has kept me from having to have a response when I don't have one, and that's this phrase, right here. If I were you, I'd feel just like you do. When they're expressing their anger, their bitterness, their disappointment, their hurt, their frustration, the way they feel about something that you strongly agree with. If I were you, I'd feel just like you. Because that's the truth. If you were them, you would feel like they do. Empathy, showing the people that you can connect even though their life isn't the same as your life, their decisions aren't the same as your decisions, their church attendance isn't the same as your church attendance. That's a big step. Before we can effectively minister to former members, first we need to develop the ability to walk in their shoes. Okay? To see things through their eyes, to hear things through their ears. I want to show you a video clip. It's not as long as the last one. It's not nearly as dated. So you can bear with me on this one. And while the setting is a hospital and not a church, the message is the same. makes me look at people a lot differently when I see that. You know, we don't know what someone's experience may have been. We don't know what they're going through. We don't know what they perceive it to be. We don't know their side of the story. And so often, as is the case, the devil, he piles layers on layers of things so that it's not just one thing that they're dealing with. It wasn't just, well, yes, they said that and that offended me, but I was also going through this, and this. And it was just too much. And then no one reached out to me after I left. And I thought to myself, well, did they really care if I'm there or not? Do they really care if I'm there? Now let's just talk about a little bit about the experience of a former inactive member when they return to church for the first time, okay? So we've been showing them love, we've been showing them care, and hallelujah, praise the Lord, they come walking in through that door. Now I realize that for most of us, church is a place that's familiar to us as active members. It's comfortable for us to be here. We know the song, the opening song that we sing. We know the order of events. We know the person speaking. Everything's good, right? We understand what's going on. But many other people don't feel like that. For many people, they don't know everyone's name like we do. This isn't a second home for them. They aren't involved in ministry like we are. But for someone who hasn't been to church in months or years, we need to realize that there's a lot of anxiety in their hearts when they come back. They're nervous, they're stressed. The church today may have some similarities to the church that they left years ago, but the church may also possibly be drastically different. The people are different. Programming may be different. The building may be different. People don't recognize them. Maybe they only recognize one person. But everything else about their experience is unknown and can be anxiety-producing. And what we have the privilege of doing is to do all we can to ensure that they have a positive and joyful experience. Okay? When they come in, we want to treat them like family. That begins with first impressions. More often than not, first impressions begin before they even arrive at the church. The first impression may well determine whether or not they come back. Statistics tell us that 73%, so almost 3/4, of people who come to the front door of a church have already checked out its online presence. They've been to their website, checked out if they've got a Facebook page, if there are other people that are members of that church that are on Facebook or whatever. They've already checked it out. So what is our website? What's our church website saying? What's our social media presence saying about our church? If we have a website, is it current? Is it up to date? Is it actually telling what the sermon's going to be next week? Or is it celebrating the groundbreaking that we had on this place 2 years ago? Which is it? Thankfully that it's not. But other churches, again, I dealt with that. We had a church Facebook page at one of the churches, and we looked at it's like I don't think anyone had logged on for 3 years. There was something that had happened a long time ago, and well, if I would think the church was dead, the church has moved. They can't be still worshiping. Well, is that what ours is saying? Now, is our digital presence current? Is it the right address, the right phone number? If someone calls that phone number, will they get a live voice? Will they get a recording? If they get a recording and they leave a message, will someone call them back? Right? Is your church easy to identify? Can we find it? I know there's one sign, Seventh-day Adventist church sign as I come up the road, but it's for some church in Harvest. I don't know what church it is. It's not for this church. But thankfully the GPS leads me here. It led me here when I first got here. But what about our sign out front? I know we're working on a sign, but it's important. Again, I'm not hammering. This is the same. I'm going to give this at other places too. So this isn't directed at Grace Fellowship in a way. But we ourselves, we're introspective, right? We want to say, okay, well, when people arrive here, is it clear for them where to park? Is it clear which entrance is the front entrance? Are the restrooms clearly marked? It can be embarrassing for people. They've driven a ways and they got to go to the bathroom and they got to ask someone, a stranger, where's your restroom? If it's not marked, how are they supposed to know where it's at? If you have children's programming, does someone explain where that's happening? Does someone offer to escort them over to the other building and show them how to get to that classroom? What does our lobby communicate to the person returning to church? Is it well lit? Is it clean? Is it tastefully decorated? Is the literature current and non-offensive? Are there friendly people around? Do people receive an appropriate welcome? It's important to notice people when they come back to our church, but it's equally important not to overdo your welcome. All right? Some people wish to remain anonymous. Some people don't want to be told to stand up. Hey, let everyone see. Don't do that. I used to hate that when my dad, he stopped doing it when he was ministerial director, and so every week we'd go to a different church and he'd be preaching. He's like, I brought my family with it. Stand up and show them. We're like, we don't want everyone looking at us. You're the guy up front, you turkey. This is your job, not my job. I'm just sitting here. Just let me sleep. We drove since 6:30 this morning. So do they receive an appropriate welcome? Some, they're okay exchanging a few pleasantries, but they just want to keep moving. Hey, I don't really have time to talk to you right now. I'm just kind of want to be incognito a little bit. They don't want to ask 20 questions about where they've been, what they've been doing. Now others, they crave a big hug, right? They want to feel like they never left. They want a happy greeting along with invitations to do other things together with active members, right? In other words, there's a range of responses we can give. There's a range of responses. And we need to pray and plan appropriate responses for each individual. Say, Lord, help me to know how to respond to this person when they come back. We're praying for you. It's your job to get them back in the church. I'm doing my part by being more loving, by being more caring, by reaching out to them. But help me to know when they do come back, as I have faith in you that they will, help me to know how to respond to them. The key is just to relate to them in a naturally friendly manner, the same way you would meet any other friend that you hadn't seen in a long time. Hey, Ann, it's been so long. How you been? Good to see you. What have you been up to? Well, I'm so glad to hear that. Well, you know what? Right now isn't the best time. I know that you're trying to get into church, but afterwards, make sure you catch me so we can catch up. I'll do it. Thanks for saying that, Ann. Love you. Happy Sabbath. Now, another thing, and this is something I have to do. Sometimes when I'm nervous, as is the case, you may not think it, but I get nervous. Sometimes I like to joke. Joking is not appropriate in this time. We may mean it as humorous, but to say something like, oh, it's so good to see you again. I thought you were dead. You may mean it as a joke. You laugh, though. Don't say it. Don't sit there and laugh. Yeah. Yes. Please don't say that, folks. We may mean it as a joke, but a person's inactivity is not a joke to them, right? We don't know why a person has become inactive. A number of serious crises or difficulties may have occurred, none of which are amusing. So a simple statement, it's good to see you. How have you been? It'll produce much more favorable results. You don't need to go crazy. Obviously, the church foyer is no place to carry on an extended conversation to catch up on where they've been the last 6 years. But it is a place to express your warm interest in that person and suggest getting together at a later time for a talk, right? That's more appropriate. Say, I'd love to catch up with what's going on with you, but this isn't the place. Maybe we could meet for lunch one day this week, right? I'd love to go to lunch with you. Is there a day that works? Now, you may be sitting there thinking, well, that's a lot of work. Yep, it is. However, our job is simply to be an extension of God's grace to all we encounter. What a privilege. What most inactive members tell us is that they want to know that they are loved. Surveys tell us that 80% of inactives receive zero contact from the church after leaving. 80%, 4 out of 5. That same 80% number we talked about that said they'd be happy to come back, said they probably would rejoin a church, a Seventh-day Adventist church, and received no response. No one has contacted me since I left. That's a very sad commentary. What we're communicating to these folks is they're not important. We don't care. It says they're a commodity, an object that's easily replaced. Well, frankly, we were a little cramped at the little house. I'm glad we've got the space now. That family of 4 was coming. Now we got 4 extra seats. That's not how we believe. The reality is they can't be replaced any more than one of your children can be replaced. Can't replace them. The 3 parables of Jesus in Luke 15, the lost sheep, the lost coin, the prodigal son, they make it abundantly clear that everyone is of supreme, utmost importance to God. And if that's the case, how can we do any less? Because let's remember the people we are welcoming back are people that we know and love. They may be someone's parents, or they may be someone's brother or sister, or an uncle or an aunt or a cousin. They're someone's son, they're someone's daughter. The reality is that these aren't just numbers. These are not just projects. These are people who are of infinite worth, who Jesus died to save. It's personal. And the ministry and love we give matters more than we can ever know. Take a moment and let's picture our home church. Let's picture Grace Fellowship from the perspective of someone who's never been in the building before. Is it easy to find and well marked? Is the main entrance well marked? Is there someone in the foyer at all times to greet people, even latecomers? Yes. Are the restrooms easy to find? Are they clean? Yes. Are they in working order? No. Ask yourself this question. If I were a guest at a church of another denomination, what experience would make me feel more relaxed and welcome when I walk through the front door? What would make me feel more welcome if I was going to a church for the first time? And we're going to have a variety of responses. They're not wrong, but we might want to use those and think about those for what we do to welcome people back. If you've invited them to join you for church, set a time to meet them, right? If you've invited someone to come, don't just hope they find their way in and see where you're sitting. Set a time to meet with them and then go with them to your seats, right? Then invite them to do something with your family, right? Maybe we're going to go out come home for lunch with me. Hey, you guys want to come over to my house Saturday night, play some games? You want to go out for a picnic on Sunday? That church is putting on the whatever that we're putting on. Let's do that together, right? Hey, you guys like football? I know that happens here sometimes. Come, let's watch the game on Sunday. Come over to my house. We'll have some popcorn and Big Franks. In the time remaining, I want us to focus on how to find those that are considered missing. Now, the vast majority of people who are dropped from membership are not dropped for apostasy. They haven't stopped believing. They haven't said, I believe in, Wednesday is the right day of worship or whatever, anything like that. They're dropped simply as missing, which means to our knowledge, they haven't done anything wrong. We just don't know where they are. Okay? At this point, I want to say that's tragic. If someone has been gone so long that we can no longer reach them, their phone has been disconnected, they no longer live at that address, we waited a long time to reconnect with them. Okay, so that's tragic. The sad truth is that the church simply hasn't put in much effort to find them. In one conference in our union, 1 year, they dropped 2,000 people as missing. 2,000 people dropped from membership. And that's dropped. They are no longer Seventh-day Adventists. And the sad truth is that some churches drop people for financial reasons. As you may know, you can save some money. Did you know that, Ramona? I need the treasurer to leave during this next part. Actually, as we know, churches' insurance rates are based on membership. What we pay to the conference every year for our insurance is based on membership. In the particular conference that I'm referencing, a church pays $18 per member per year for property insurance. Yeah, exactly. That's why I need it. Treasurer, just blah, blah, earmuffs. Yeah. Yeah, clean them up. Clean them up. Let's get them going. I haven't seen him in a week. Write them off, right? Yeah, man. They were on vacation. Cut them. Cut them. They didn't show up. They didn't show up.
But, our insurance also covers liability, is that the
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
worker liability,
Yeah.
and also property.
So $18 a year, okay? Some churches were found to be dropping people by the hundreds just to save themselves some money.
But were the members really needed?
I don't know, but it's a lot easier to just drop them and save money than reach out to them, right? That was the attitude. And the reality is that these are sons and daughters who the church is saying, you're not worth $1.50 a month. That's rough. I submit that's tragic. I also want you to know this conference has put in place stringent programs of finding these people and ministering to them. That's what we're doing right now, okay? We don't want to be that. We're not dropping people for that, okay? We can say shame on those other people, but we've said shame on ourselves at several of these points, right? The good news is that today, in the realm of technology where we live, it's extremely difficult to be missing, okay? Between social media, websites, the vast majority of people can be found. I want to suggest a program that is available to us as a church. It's called People Finders, peoplefinders.com. It's inexpensive, very easy to use, and you can cancel anytime.